Welcome to the Design Journeys podcast. I'm your host, Chris Whyte, and in this podcast series, we explore the career journeys of design and engineering leaders from the world of physical product development. In this episode, I'm joined by Dr. Kristi Bartlett. Kristi is Director of Product Development at Zebrio, a business dedicated to assessing and reducing fall risk, which is currently the number one reason for trauma death. Amongst other things, we discuss her time at Zebrio and the University of Kentucky, AI in design, equality and gender bias in design, and her role in Women in Industrial Design section of the IDSA. So make yourself comfortable and let's get on with the show. Joining me today is Dr. Kristi Bartlett. Kristi is an assistant professor at the University of Kentucky College of Design, teaching courses focused on medical device design and 3D modeling in SolidWorks. Kristi is also Director of Product Development at Zebrio, where she leads the design and development of physical and digital products for fall risk assessment and fall prevention. She has a bachelor's in civil and environmental engineering, a master's in industrial and product design, and last year completed her PhD in technology. Kristi, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. Hopefully that intro did you justice, and
great.
I'm looking forward to our conversation. So let's start at the beginning then, shall we? So you started your career or your academic education, should I say? You started at the Rice University, is that? Studying
Yes.
Civil and Environmental Engineering. So not a course that one would naturally associate with product design, I guess. What
Right.
kind of led to that course then? How did you involved in that?
Yeah, in the US, when you really have a free choice once you enter university of where you'll end up, because we don't have any sort of like preparation tracks in high school. So in high school, my teachers in math and science had told me that I should study engineering because I was good in math and science. And I really didn't understand what engineering was. So I just applied to the engineering college in my university. But I didn't really have a clear understanding of what the different disciplines of engineering did, or not a clear enough one to make a well-informed decision. So I think I chose civil engineering because I understood what that was. Essentially, I knew, they make bridges and buildings, and they actually do a lot more than that, but I didn't know that at the time. And I ended up not really loving it or resonating with it. But by then, I was so far through the degree, I thought I'll just finish the degree. So I wasn't really truly passionate about it. It's just kind of where I ended up. And I thought, it's a good basis either way to get an engineering degree when you're in undergrad.
Absolutely. And what you just said there will resonate with so many people. It certainly does with me. When you're at that stage in life, really, where you've got to choose a path where you go, I think it's a lot easier to figure out what you don't want to do. And certainly from my experience, going off and doing A-levels because that's what was expected of you. But I didn't know what I wanted to do at that stage. It was all very foggy, the journey was. I had to do some jobs that I didn't really like and have to do before I figured out that I definitely didn't want to do that. So my route to doing anything but that was this way. I'm speaking to people over there, that's a very common thing. But also with engineering as well. I imagine it's the same in the States as it is here in the UK. Certainly when I was growing up, my view of engineering was hard hats, kind of nuts and bolts. And in reality, it's so broad, isn't it? But it sounds like you had a similar experience.
Right. Yeah, I think it is pretty broad. And, even had I decided to go into civil engineering as a career, I still would have had to have a bunch of on-the-job training maybe my first 2 years, because really the degree is more like very fundamental theory in math and science and not something that's really applied the way that like design degrees are.
Absolutely, yeah. So you completed your degree, and then what happened then? Where did you end up after that?
After that, I was working in a nonprofit for a few years, but I realized that wasn't right for me because I was doing more people-focused things, and I realized like I'd really rather be behind the scenes doing more technical problem solving and kind of coming a little back to my engineering roots, essentially. But I had a really life altering experience a couple years after graduation. My daughter was born, and she was born with a lot of different medical issues. So at that point, I had a complete shift where I was essentially, kind of an around the clock nurse using various medical devices to take care of her and to keep her alive. And that's what really opened my eyes, I think, to design and thinking about these are products that people have to use every day that are really critical, but the way that they've been designed isn't really appropriate for somebody in a home setting. And having studied engineering myself, I knew the amount of things I learned about maybe like human factors or human product interaction was nothing. And I knew even in my university, had I studied mechanical engineering, it would have been the same. That's not part of the curriculum. But I knew engineers design these devices, and I wanted to get involved in designing medical devices, but from a different way and from a different perspective. So that's really what led me to start researching, like, how can I move into kind of design specifically more from the industrial design side rather than the engineering design side, because of course I had, participated in engineering design in my undergraduate. So I found a program in my same city at University of Houston, which was offering a Master's of Science in Industrial Design. And I did have to do some additional coursework, like I guess an extra year, since I didn't have an industrial design background. So I had to do some extra work to kind of make that transition and get the foundational design skills. But I realized that was kind of the pathway I wanted to take in order to transition myself into the medical device space.
Yeah, that's incredible, really. I mean, in terms of that one moment then defined everything for you, didn't it?
Right.
Yeah, it's. I mean, I think back to times where I've been at degree shows or speaking to recent graduates and looking through their portfolios and finding projects, and you can tell the ones that have had not necessarily the same kind of experience, but something's affected them personally,
Right.
and those projects stand out kind of heads and shoulders above kind of their peers because they have a personal connection to it, and it's a real world kind of problem to solve, and that's what engineering is. It's problem solving, isn't it? As opposed to those that, and there's nothing wrong with this. It's kind of people find their way in at different stages, but those that get to their choosing their final year project and they're having to think about something rather than it becoming an obvious kind of natural problem to solve, whether that's be through a life experience or be through something that they've experienced in industry on a placement or an internship. So that's really interesting. So that, and I guess that would have really driven you as well to go the extra mile and perform at university on your masters, and then really kind of narrow in or focus your kind of your mind on where you wanted your career to go. So yeah, you obviously did that, and then it looks like you did research along the way as well, kind of working with the university. Perhaps you could tell us about some of the things that you kind of uncovered or that you researched.
Yeah. So during my master's program, I did, we had to do like a thesis project. So I did a thesis project where I was working with basically parents of children who used feeding tubes to eat. And I had kind of a co-design project with them. So I went into their homes and got their opinions about what was working with their current equipment, what was not working, and then asked their ideas of how the equipment could be improved. So I had known in the medical device design process, that's very unusual. Like typically people just consult surgeons or hospital executives or who they see as like kind of the big money stakeholders. So I decided to do the complete opposite of that and go to the people who are considered non-experts in the medical field, right? Untrained people. But during that process, it was so rewarding because I would make prototypes of kind of alternative setups of how they could attach the equipment to kind of the stand in their home. And all of them said that the prototypes that I made were more effective for them than the equipment that they had received from the medical supplier. which to me was shocking because I thought the prototypes looked hideous. They're very kind of clunky and rough, but it really made a difference for them. And so I think it really reinforced for me, like, okay, design isn't just about making things look good, although that is really important, but it's also about really meeting the user's needs. And that's been kind of something that has continued to drive my motivation in being involved in design.
Yeah, I mean, it's no good at looking good if it doesn't fulfill the needs of the user. So focus on that first. You can always make it look pretty afterwards, I think.
Right.
So it reminds me of conversations I've had with Tom Malloy around inclusive design, where you focus on the minority, the 1% of people that will benefit from the changes that really need the changes that you're putting in place, but actually the 99% of people that use the product as well benefit. So,
right.
But it's something that big corporations traditionally they don't focus on that. Like you say, they focus on the surgeons, they focus on the medical professionals and the bottom line, but actually focusing on the users benefits everyone. So that's wonderful. So talk us through Zebrio then. How did that come about? And maybe you could tell us a bit about it and kind of and how you got involved.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure some of your listeners will be able to relate to me where I lived in a city that didn't have a lot of design job opportunities. So Houston is not known for design or industrial design, but what it is known for is having, I think, the biggest medical center in the world. So there were quite a few people in Houston who were trying to kind of build more of a culture of innovation around healthcare. So I was always online, like trying to figure out, okay, what are the opportunities where I can go out and meet people and try to network and get involved. And I found that there was a startup career fair. So I think maybe after my first year in my master's program, I was like, okay, I at least have some skills to offer now. I went to that startup career fair and tried to find an internship essentially to get my foot in the door in a company that wanted a designer. So I found an internship essentially as a design engineer at Zibrio. And to start off, all they needed was somebody to basically do 3D modeling and 3D printing to make the prototypes for clinical testing. So I guess to make this make sense at all, I should explain what the company does and what our prototypes were doing.
Yeah.
So the company was founded by two researchers who were working together at NASA, and they were trying to measure, Houston has a NASA there as well, maybe you know. They were trying to measure astronauts' balance on the moon, essentially. So to measure someone's balance, they need to be standing and, in space, you can't stand, but on the moon, there is some gravity, so you could stand. So they were thinking, how could we put a technology to measure balance into a moon boot? Then they realized, after they developed this technology, which was basically they had developed a machine learning algorithm, they realized that it could really help people on Earth. Obviously, there's a lot of people who have balance problems, especially older adults. Both the co-founders had a grandmother who had fallen, and that you probably know many people who are older, once they fall, that can just lead to a chain of events that eventually leads to them dying. So they basically put that technology into something like a bathroom scale that you would use to measure your weight. But essentially there's a force sensor in each corner of the scale. So when somebody stands, just stand still on the scale with your eyes open, look straight ahead, be as still as you can. The scale can measure kind of the pattern of the way that your body is moving. Because if you try if you try to stand still, try it later today, you'll realize after a while you're kind of swaying and you can't help it. So the machine learning algorithm analyzes that pattern of sway and characterizes it in a way that predicts whether or not the person will have a fall in the next 12 months.
Wow.
So it's very powerful.
Yeah. I've always got a tune in my head, so if I stand still for too long, I'm swaying to that tune anyway.
Yeah, so. There you go. You'd have to try not to do that.
Yeah. Wow. So, and I read on the company LinkedIn page. Don't have it open, but it was tens of billions of dollars worth of kind of healthcare treatment every
Right.
year, is it?
Right.
Due to falls.
I think that sounds right.
That's unreal. You know people that have had falls, or you know of people whose grandparents have fallen, but to put it into that kind of perspective, it's unreal. So anything you can do to prevent falls is only going to, well, obviously benefit the immediate kind of person, but then as a consequence, help either save money or filter that money into other areas, which is brilliant. So you've been doing that for nearly 7 years now, and you're now kind of director of product development. So you've gone from being the SolidWorks and the 3D printing kind of intern to leading a team now. Is it a team, or is it still fairly small?
It's still fairly small, and at this point, our really, the physical product has been developed and is being manufactured. So I don't work on that part anymore. But we do have some software accompanying it as well. So the scale is, an IoT device. It has a mobile app that can control it. So the mobile app is, if you've talked to other people in that space, it's never done because there's always, updates. Oh, Apple updated this policy, so you need to publish a new update, or you need, tweak it to go in the direction that the users want. So I've also had the great opportunity to work with the software development team and kind of oversee those projects.
So does the device then, it can measure trends, can it? So if you stand on it once a week, and then it'll measure and you can see. Okay. I could see what that would be really, over time, it could be really accurate, couldn't it? So, oh, fantastic. And then more recently, in the last 9 months or so, you joined as an assistant professor at the University of Kentucky College of Design. So I guess that's your full-time role now, is it?
Correct.
Kind of in tandem with Zibrio. So brilliant. So you're kind of teaching. What are the key things that students enjoy about your lessons then?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, you'd have to ask the students, but I think even going back to what we were talking about before about, how I had this personal connection with my coursework, right? I was there to get a degree so that I could become a medical device designer because I really cared about that. And it's actually proven in like the studies of how people learn that students, if they're really connected with the material and they have more motivation, their performance will be better. So I try to help my students find like what is their personal motivation? What kind of designer do they want to be? And a lot of times they don't know. And it's kind of like what you mentioned before, like, well, I know what I don't want to do. Okay, that is good starting point. But, how can we find what you do want to do? Like, do you really hate sketching and you love 3D modeling? Well, then, okay, like maybe try to improve your sketching a little bit, but maybe try to become really, really good at 3D modeling if that's what you like. And that can become kind of your selling point for yourself. Or figure out what industry, what subfield of design do you want to be in? Like, do you really like toy design? Well, okay, can you bring like a toy design angle into your projects? And then your projects will probably turn out better and position you better for going into industry. So I try to help the students do that. I'm still working on the best ways to help young people find that out.
Yeah. So what themes are you seeing then in terms of what's driving young people today? I mean, to give you some context, so I speak to people who are looking for work. That's my day job, and kind of one of the themes that comes out is in terms of what motivates people, what they want in the next role is meaningful stuff. So they want to work on product or develop products that are going to have a positive impact on people's lives, whether it be a joyous experience or whether it be a life-changing experience with its medical devices. And conscious of that, what they don't want to work on is dirty stuff, polluting stuff, oil and gas, and cars or kind of weapons, So interested to see, because I don't speak to a lot of people before they graduate, what are the themes that you're seeing?
I mean, I think one is definitely similar to what you're saying. There's a lot of students that are specifically interested in like environmental sustainability.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to figure out how does that fit in with design. And a lot of times they'll go in like a really specific direction, like, oh, I need to make everything out of bamboo, which is not, that's a very oversimplified view of the problem. So I've tried to bring in like a little bit of my background in civil and environmental engineering and kind of show more of the big picture. Like, okay, well, if you manufacture something locally and then you're not shipping it as far, you could save a lot of CO2 emissions, and try to get them to think about, sustainability from a more nuanced way. That's definitely one theme. I think some students are really interested in like the visualization side of design. So that's maybe more in like the product development, mechanical engineering side, that's not as big of an emphasis, but for industrial designers, like the high fidelity 3D rendering or animations of the products. And then even thinking about how can they start to use AI tools to enhance those product visualizations. There's also a handful of students who are interested in exploring that area and honing their skills in that area.
What's your view on AI then? Is it going to destroy industrial design or enhance it?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that there's some parts of the process that it will maybe make less important. So one, for industrial design, traditionally, like hand sketching skills have been really highly emphasized. But if you think about it, like at a time before CAD existed, the only way to communicate an idea to someone would be to like draw it really realistically and, make a kind of a selling version of an image to try to sell to the CEO or whatever. Like, look, this is what we're going to make. Then 3D modeling came. You could now 3D model things really easily and then now computer render them. And that's an easier way to sell an idea because it looks more real than a hand-drawn idea. So I think high fidelity hand sketching skills will just become less and less important. And especially because some AI tools kind of specifically target, take your sketch and turn it into this beautiful rendering with the click of a button.
Yeah, absolutely. You could draw a beer mat sketch and you could just turn it into something that looks like you've spent hours sketching it. I think there's still, from the conversations I have in industry, there's a reluctance to let go of sketching. And I think in some cases, like design consultancies, especially if they've got a strong industrial design team, yes, they'll use the AI tools to make them more efficient, but there's something less precious about a well-sketched concept and a marker render that you take that to a client meeting and the client will get involved in kind of, well, if we move that or kind of, they're happy to draw over it. Whereas if it's a photorealistic render, it feels a little bit too finished, has been the feedback I've had over the years.
Yeah.
And I think, the kind of foam modeling, blue foam modeling and still creating stuff still has its place, I think.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to ergonomics and placement of buttons and things like that. It's very difficult to get that right. I say that as a non-designer. I imagine AI has probably got lots of data it can pull on now, but
well, and that's the thing that AI doesn't know, right? Like if you type in like, render a new teapot, like maybe the handle is going to be intercrossing with the spout or something that's like totally impractical because it doesn't care about that. Like it's just predicting, what pixels should go right here and not thinking about the user interactions at all. So of course those like nuanced design decisions or design strategy is just increasingly important for designers to have that expertise if they're curating AI generated ideas or something.
Absolutely. So let's talk about some of the areas that we discussed prior to the show in terms of areas that you're particularly passionate about. So we discussed earlier that you're interested in issues around equality in design. Obviously, healthcare design has been a big passion, which we've touched on.
Right.
But equality in design, from a gender equality, is that where you're passionate about? Yeah.
The most of my expertise, yes, but there definitely are many other equality related issues for design, going into race and disability, and LGBTQ inclusion. So
Yeah.
I don't want to minimize those, but my own expertise is definitely more in the gender area.
And in terms of kind of, I guess from your very specific experience today, the course makeup at the university, is it a fairly equal split in terms of male female students, or is there
Yeah, it's
yeah.
fairly equal. I think
Mm-hmm.
it kind of we don't have too many students yet because we're a very new
Yeah.
program. So some of the classes are not quite equal, but
Mm-hmm.
I think as we go forward, it should be about 50-50 in industrial or in a product design program.
Is that a conscious policy by the university to keep it level, or is that just happy
No, I think
coincidence?
that's just who's interested at this point.
Yeah.
And that's kind of a similar trend across the US, at least, is that the students enrolling in industrial design and product design is usually 50-50, maybe possibly even leaning toward more women.
Mm-hmm. That's certainly what I've seen in UK universities as well, in terms of, yeah, kind of 50-50, kind of at worst, if you like, but then, yeah, certainly industrial design creeping over more to kind of there being more women, but
Yeah.
engineering is a little bit more biased towards male, but it's still, at university at least, it's still fairly balanced. But then when we get to industry, it's like all the women just vanish. Has that been your experience in the States as well?
Well, I think it really depends on also the subfield of engineering.
Yeah.
So, like as an example, our program is very partnered with biomedical engineering. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty familiar with biomedical engineering. In my university and I think across the US, biomedical engineering has more than 50% women.
Oh, great.
I would say similarly, chemical engineering tends to attract high rates of women. Civil engineering, in my undergrad
Mm.
degree, I think almost all the professors were men, but most of the students were women in
Oh,
civil
wow.
engineering. Maybe because we had civil and environmental engineering, and there's a
Mm.
lot of women students who are interested in
Yeah.
environmental sustainability. So it's really specific fields of engineering that have kind of
Mm-hmm.
have more growth that needs to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So mechanical engineering is one that tends to have the least women, and I think also like electrical and computer engineering
Mm-hmm.
tends to be pretty low as well. But it's not all engineering disciplines have kind of the same culture and the same levels of appeal to different groups.
So, what, if anything, there is where you've had exposure to where there is a good kind of balance? What do they do well that I guess other industries might learn from?
Well, I think that part of it is really like people's ideas about, what is this discipline about?
Mm-hmm.
So if biomedical engineering, for example, is kind of, it's easy to see how that is about helping people.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's something that, women are socialized to go into roles that are going to help people. So biomedical engineering sounds maybe more appealing than mechanical engineering, where you actually can do a lot of things to help people with mechanical engineering, but it's not going to be marketed that way. It's more marketed as like, oh, technical problem solving, regardless of, the end product may be very critical to helping people.
There's gender bias in just in the language that's used on job
Right.
descriptions as well, which is not. I don't think it's a conscious thing. It's but
Right.
it just certain words
Yeah,
like technical problem solving are more coded masculine than
absolutely.
feminine, and so there's work I've done over the years to try and make my kind of adverts, certainly when I'm advertising, more gender neutral in terms of the language they use. So I think well, the studies that I've read and the conversations that I've had with women engineers over the years is that women are more likely to analyze job descriptions and rule themselves out of an opportunity if they don't tick most of the boxes, like all the requirements. Whereas men are a little bit more gung-ho and will just click, yeah, sure, I can do that. And they're more likely just to go for it. And
Right.
so
Right.
So I think there's when you're advertised for jobs, obviously I'm a recruiter, but if you've
Yeah.
advertised jobs to fill your own team, and plenty of people will resonate with this, you see most of the applications are men who on paper don't look like they could do the job, because they're like say gung ho, they just click apply, whereas women are a little bit
Yeah.
more selective over what they apply for. And if
Right.
there's a couple of words in there that don't resonate with them, that are kind of coded, then again, it's enough to put people off. And if it puts
Yeah.
that one person off that's perfect for the job, but they don't know it, then there's a missed opportunity for everyone involved in that.
Right.
So I don't know what the answer to that is. I'm not going to give. We have to solve that for. I think one thing that we do as a conscious thing I do anyway, as a recruiter, something that if you're listening to this and you're writing your own adverts to kind of fill roles within your team, less is definitely more. The less requirements you put on there, the more applications you'll get that you have to screen through, but the less likely you are to put someone off, be them male or female, but you're definitely less likely to put women off applying, because you get putting less barriers in the way. And then there's gender coding tools as well. I can share a link on the description, the show notes for this, where you can literally copy and paste your advert in, and it will tell you how it's coded. I don't know if that's something you've seen before.
That's really interesting. No, I haven't, but I've definitely read the job descriptions like you're talking about that said, oh, we're looking for someone who's been a lifelong tinkerer. Like, no, very few women who have been very like creative their whole lives are going to describe themselves that way. So it's just a bit oblivious sometimes.
Yeah, it's kind of it's building up a stereotype of a woman engineer. I'm thinking of the kid in the new Ghostbusters film. That's that kind of, no, women aren't like that in general, are they? It's like you make it a stereotype of something a very small portion of people are going to resonate with. So just make it appeal to more people, and happy days. But sorry, we kind of I went off on a bit of an advert rant then. I tend to do that. So
that's fine. I think it's important. I really think that it makes a difference. So
absolutely. So in terms of design process then, and exploring kind of user insights, obviously that's been a big part of your studies and the research that you've done. Perhaps you could talk around that a little bit more in terms of the how companies might take that, or the trends that you're seeing, I guess, from your perspective.
Sure. I thought of a story that I can tell about it. We were really early in developing the Zibrio scale. Like I said, it's a connected device, so it can pair with an app, and the users can use the app to kind of control different things on the scale. I was really adamant that we needed to finish building like the ability for people to give a firmware update to the scale from the app, before we sent them to anybody, because I was just really afraid, like, what if there's something that goes terribly wrong, but we have this great power that we can fix it. Like, we can deploy a fix while the scales are out in the field. And to me, that's something really exciting about connected devices. Yeah. It's like, you have more flexibility. If you do something that doesn't make sense to the users, you can change it after you've already shipped the device. So that did end up happening with our very first. We kind of gave it to a few, slow rollout, give it to a few of our first customers and see how they're going to use it. And some of them called us up and said, like, my scale doesn't work at all. It's completely broken. It doesn't work at all. So we're like, I don't see how that's possible. We've tested it a lot. Can you explain it? And they're just like, yeah, we stand on it and nothing happens. So finally, my colleague went out to kind of meet one of these customers and look at what happened. And we realized that what was happening was, so she asked the person, like, okay, re-zero or re-tear the scale, show me how you're doing that. And we realized that the person, they pressed on it to start the tearing process. Then they immediately stood on it without waiting until the tearing process was done. So then it teared to their body weight. And so then it weighed their body weight as 0 pounds or 0 kilograms.
Like they're on the moon.
Yeah, and then they were like, oh, it's completely broken. And we were like,
Yeah.
oh no, people didn't realize that, whatever symbol we were showing on the scale meant it's not done tearing. You need to wait. So thankfully we were able to, devise a new kind of display for communicating that more clearly to people and send out an update. But to me, it's impossible to predict how everyone else will perceive the thing that you designed, even if you think it makes complete sense, like it might not.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's, when you're dealing with that demographic as well, it can. I guess that the age range can range kind of wildly as well.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, my parents are in their early 60s, and they're fairly tech aware, but I'm still called on to do things that seem really obvious to me, like pairing a new kind of TV box, where that's following the instructions and going mad, getting frustrated with it, and I just go in and say, well, just put this code in, but it's nothing's obvious, is it? That's one. But yeah, that's really interesting. I think, I don't know when it happened, but when apologies, there's a helicopter going overhead. I don't know if you can hear that, but I don't know when it happened, but I've just when you've just said that, I've realised that how much more convenient is life now that things can be updated without plugging it into a computer. It's one of my pet hates of buying. I buy a lot of music tech, and before you can use it, you've got to plug it into a computer and download the drivers, download the software, and make sure it's all up to date, so then it can pair with your phone and change the settings. But now it's just, as long as you've got a Wi-Fi connection, everything just works. It's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a time to be alive. Super. Well, we're going to move on to some quick fire questions then. So, favorite book or podcast that you're into at the moment?
I've always really loved the podcast How I Built This with Guy Raz. Are you familiar with it?
No, but I will check it out.
It's essentially, it's been around for many years, so now there's so many episodes, but it's basically, he interviews people who started companies. So since I'm interested in startups, that's probably why I like it. Or awesome. I just like the story of, how did you get to where you are now from nothing? So he's interviewed all sorts of really famous founders, or even founders of well-known companies that you probably haven't heard of the individual because maybe they're not well-known.
Awesome. Brilliant. And books, are you reading any books at the moment? Or is there any classic books that you insist that your students read?
Well, not really. I think I do have to read books like for my own research. So, I checked out some books from the library about qualitative research methods, which is not super exciting, but I've really been trying to assign more like YouTube videos rather than books, which is probably makes some people furious that I'm, not forcing the students to read. But I, like I said, I want to really engage and inspire the students. And I also want to give them that chance to see the people speaking and present them with like a diverse group of voices. And when you see the person in YouTube, you might read a book by someone with a particular background and you don't even know, you didn't notice that their background matched yours or not. So
absolutely, yeah.
I'm bad with books, I guess. But
so can you, on a funnier project then, can you cite a YouTube video? Is that good enough evidence? Because back when I did my degree, we had to cite textbooks and exact page reference and all that.
Yeah, I mean, people can, you can cite videos, you can cite websites, you can cite a tweet or whatever it is called now. Yeah. Anything there's a way to cite anything.
That's making me feel dreadfully old now. That's citing tweets. Wonderful. And are you following any, talking about tweets, any social influencers that specific to design, I guess, or medical that people should be aware of?
That's a good question. I don't know right now. I feel like the other day I saw there was this big hoopla on LinkedIn because some people had made these long lists of like what design voices to follow on LinkedIn, and they included like 20 men and one woman. and they, how oblivious can you be to post that this year? Like, where have you been? But people are doing that. And so I think sometimes just all the voices out there, it can be really male skewed and doesn't represent, like, doesn't connect with everybody. So I think I prefer to, like, converse with the people in my maybe immediate community who I talk to more than I'm excited about, people posting stuff into the void to get more and more followers and likes.
That's the game these days.
Yep.
Social marketing.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, because there's always a marketing part behind it, or it's like, you don't do that for no
it
reason.
takes a lot of thought.
It's a great way to drive business.
Yeah, anyone that says they do it for fun, I think is fooling themselves, let alone their followers.
Right, it's a lot of work.
It's a job. It's something you've actively got to choose to do.
I rarely post. It's not because I have no interesting ideas. It's because that would take so much time.
Yeah, on Facebook I don't post hardly anything. Like it was my 40th birthday the other day, and I didn't even post on Facebook for that. I engaged with what other people posted on my Facebook, and my partner, she'd shared some photos, and that was lovely. But I'm very much happy to be in the area there, but I'm chatting with my friends on WhatsApp or messages or seeing them at the pub. LinkedIn though, that's the professional kind of networking area where I have to be a lot more.
Absolutely.
But I have to think about it. It's not necessarily a natural thing. But it's interesting. We were introduced to each other through Leah, and so you're both part of a women in design industry network. Perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about that as we want to balance out the male-dominated kind of social marketing nonsense. Let's balance it with kind of the great network that you're part of.
Yeah, so Leah Stewart was really the one that started this whole thing. She basically tried to gather together a bunch of women in the design community, either from industry or from education, to kind of come together. I think we meet maybe like 2 times per month online, virtually, because we're all over the country, to just kind of share different career advice or discuss different topics and offer each other support. So that's been a really awesome thing, and awesome. Leah is such a great connector of people, so it's really a valuable group to be part of.
Wonderful. What's the best thing, or some of the best things that have come out of those conversations then?
That's a good question. I mean, we had some really fruitful conversations just about this. Really actually would relate to your position as a recruiter, about how once someone kind of rises to a certain level, and like maybe they're kind of the highest level in design, but they want to go higher, and then they want to shift maybe to something that's being called marketing, but they don't have marketing in their degree title, even though in design they've like worked with a lot of marketing. So that's kind of becoming a barrier for some of these women who are further along in their career, is like, oh, well, you don't have an MBA. Well, you don't know marketing, even though maybe they actually do know that stuff, and it's just not in their job title. So I don't know if you have any ideas for that, but that's definitely a conversation that we've been having.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because a lot of what you're doing in industrial design kind of crosses, or there's a blurred line between marketing anyway, and certainly in terms of the research side of things, because a lot of marketing is, well, let's figure out who the audience is and what they like and don't like, and then let's tailor our pitch to attract those people. And that's not that far removed from let's design a product to meet with the needs of our client base based on this. So, but yeah, it's a similar question to how do I go from being a senior designer to a design manager or head of. So most of the time I see people go through promotions and training in a business. It's very rare do you see someone make the jump from senior designer to in one company to manager straight away in the next company, because what company's going to take a risk on that? 2 very different jobs, might be in the same department, but managing people is a world apart from kind of managing a design project.
Right.
So there's lots of painful lessons to learn along the way. So I think it is one, network as much as you can, get in those groups, speak with people who have made that transition from design to marketing would be the first place I'd start, and kind of go and gather the data from them. Really, how do they do it? And then network,
Yeah.
get out to as many groups as you can, and inquire internally. How can I get an opportunity? Can I do a project or a secondment in the marketing team? I think any little bit of exposure into that world is going to pay dividends later down the line. But it's like when you're earlier on in your career, you've really got to want it, and you've got to put yourself out there to go and do it, because nothing's going to land on your lap, is it? So
absolutely.
So yeah, whether that's helpful or not, or whether it just gets more people listening, just scratching their head, where do I start? But brilliant. Well, I'll put some links in. I don't know if there's a website people can sign up to get involved in the Women in Industrial Design group.
There's not a website, but they could contact me and I can point them the right direction.
I'll pop a link to your LinkedIn profile then, and expect a flurry of connection requests.
Okay.
And then finally, just to wrap things up, is there anyone that you'd like to shout out, or anything that you want to share, either about Zibrio or projects that you're kind of working on as a kind of, this is your episode, by the way, so kind of anything you want to kind of share, this is your kind of last opportunity to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think anyone who's interested in kind of hearing more about our products at Zibrio, I'm definitely happy to talk about that. I also just want to put in a plug for our program, our product design program at University of Kentucky. It is a new program. This is the first graduating class is graduating this year. So being a new program, we're always looking for people who want to, be involved as like, do they want to give a portfolio critique to our students? We don't have a network of alumni yet that we can lean on for these things. So people who are excited about product design education, especially kind of like a new program with a fresh perspective, and might want to volunteer with us in some way or be connected with our students, I would love to connect with them.
Absolutely. Yeah, so any design consultancies or design leaders in the Kentucky area, please do get in touch. Let's share some love, share some resumes and portfolios, and help these students out. So, Kristi, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for listening. I hope you really enjoyed this episode, and if you did, please like and subscribe and tell all of your friends. In the meantime, just a quick note from me. In addition to hosting this podcast, I'm also the founder of Kodu, a specialist recruitment business focused exclusively on physical product development. For a little over a decade now, I've worked exclusively within physical product design and engineering, helping startups and established brands hire mechanical design and development talent, from midweight up to C-suite. I've worked in consumer electronics, e-bikes, femtech, medical devices, design consultancy, basically user-focused stuff. And it's the wonderful people I've met over the years that have inspired me to create this podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Kodu and how we work, please head over to teamkodu.com or message me, Chris Whyte, on LinkedIn. Thanks again for listening.